In the crowded streets of Mumbai, amidst the chaos of traffic, vendors, and thousands of rushing people, sits a figure that shouldn't exist according to every Buddhist text ever written. A Buddha, fully awakened, completely enlightened, beyond all suffering and illusion. But instead of sitting in serene meditation or radiating detached compassion, he's doing something that would scandalize every monastery on earth. He's laughing hysterically at a street magician's trick. He's completely absorbed in watching a pickpocket work the crowd. He's utterly fascinated by a child's elaborate lie to her mother. He's not just observing illusion. He's not just seeing through illusion. He's not just compassionately tolerating illusion. He's dancing with it. Here's what will shatter every assumption you have about what Buddha nature actually looks like in action. The Buddha has discovered that awakening isn't the end of the dance with illusion. It's the beginning of dancing consciously. Every image of Buddhist enlightenment you've ever seen depicts serenity, stillness, transcendent calm. The Buddha statue with half-closed eyes, peaceful expression, hands folded in meditation. This imagery has created a massive misunderstanding about what awakening actually involves. Real Buddhas don't transcend the world of illusion. They become virtuoso dancers in it. They don't sit above the fray of human experience. They dive into it with the delighted abandon of children who have just learned that splashing in puddles is the whole point of rain. If you're feeling everything you thought you knew about enlightenment starting to crack open, comment dancing below. You're about to discover why the most awakened beings are often the most playfully engaged with exactly what spiritual seekers try to escape. This dancing emerges from a recognition so radical that it transforms the entire meaning of Buddha nature itself. The Buddha has realized that consciousness doesn't create illusions to test itself, trap itself, or teach itself lessons. Consciousness creates illusions because dancing with them is the most exquisite form of self-expression possible. Every illusion is an invitation to dance. Every apparent problem is a new dance step to master. Every moment of confusion is an opportunity for consciousness to surprise itself with how gracefully it can move through complexity. The Buddha doesn't see illusions as obstacles to overcome. He sees them as dance partners to engage with. But here's where this gets beautifully paradoxical. The Buddha's dancing with illusion is so complete, so total, so uninhibited, that it looks exactly like being completely taken in by illusion to anyone who's still trying to maintain spiritual distance from their experience. He cries at movies with the same intensity as someone who believes the story is real. He gets excited about sporting events with the same passion as the most devoted fan. He falls in love with the same vulnerability as someone experiencing it for the first time. But there's a crucial difference that makes all the difference. He knows he's dancing. The moviegoer is lost in the story. The Buddha is dancing with the story. The sports fan is identified with the outcome. The Buddha is dancing with the drama of uncertainty. The lover is attached to the relationship. The Buddha is dancing with the experience of love itself. And here's what's magnificent about this distinction. When you know you're dancing, you can throw yourself into the dance completely, without losing yourself in it. When you recognize the dance as dance, you can move with total commitment, without getting trapped by your own movements. This creates something that neither spiritual detachment nor unconscious involvement achieves. Complete presence without the suffering that usually accompanies complete engagement. Follow me if you want to understand how this dancing transforms every aspect of human experience into conscious artistry. The Buddha's dance with illusion operates through what could be called participatory awareness, the ability to be simultaneously the dancer, the dance, and the one watching the dance. This isn't the split consciousness of the spiritual observer who watches life from a distance. It's unified consciousness that can be completely present as experience, while simultaneously aware of itself as the space in which experience appears. Like a master dancer who is totally absorbed in the movement while perfectly aware of every step, the Buddha can be fully human while perfectly awake to his Buddha nature. This creates something unprecedented in spiritual realization, the capacity to experience every emotion, every sensation, every thought with complete intensity, without any of the suffering that usually accompanies intense experience. Comment intensity. If you can sense how this might transform your relationship to your own emotions and experiences. The Buddha's dancing reveals something about the nature of suffering that revolutionizes the entire Buddhist understanding of the Four Noble Truths. Suffering doesn't come from experiencing illusion. Suffering comes from refusing to dance with illusion, from resisting the movement instead of moving with it, from trying to control the dance instead of letting the dance move through you. The Buddha has discovered that when you dance with whatever arises, pain, pleasure, fear, joy, confusion, clarity. The experience transforms from suffering into something that could only be called sacred choreography. Even the most difficult emotions become opportunities for exquisite movement when you approach them as dance partners rather than enemies to defeat or experiences to transcend. And here's what's beautiful about this approach. The Buddha's dancing with illusion creates something in others that formal spiritual teaching rarely achieves: permission to be fully human while remaining completely awake. People who encounter a dancing Buddha don't feel judged for their emotions, criticized for their attachments, or pressured to transcend their humanity. They feel invited to dance more consciously with whatever they're already experiencing. This creates a form of spiritual transmission that works through modeling rather than instruction, through invitation rather than demand, through demonstration rather than explanation. Right, invitation, if you can feel how this approach might be more effective than traditional spiritual teaching methods. But the Buddha's dancing reveals something even more profound about the relationship between awakening and engagement with life. Most spiritual paths create a hierarchy where awakening is considered higher than ordinary human experience. The Buddha's dancing dissolves this hierarchy completely. From the perspective of dancing consciousness, there is no higher or lower, no spiritual or mundane, no awakened or unawakened. There is only dancing and refusing to dance. The person lost in illusion is dancing unconsciously. The Buddha is dancing consciously. But they're both dancing, both expressing the same consciousness, both participating in the same cosmic choreography. This recognition creates something that most spiritual traditions never achieve: complete inclusivity of all human experience as valid expressions of Buddha nature. The angry person is Buddha nature dancing as anger. The confused person is Buddha nature dancing as confusion. The seeking person is Buddha nature dancing as spiritual seeking. None of it needs to be fixed, transcended, or improved. All of it can be danced with more consciously. Follow for more content that explores these radical understandings of awakening and their practical implications for living as conscious awareness. The Buddha's dancing eventually reveals something that would shock most Buddhist practitioners. There never was anyone who became awakened, and there never was any illusion to awaken from. There is only consciousness dancing with itself, sometimes dreaming it's asleep, sometimes dreaming it's awake, always expressing its infinite creativity through the beautiful choreography of forgetting and remembering its own nature. The Buddha who dances with illusion and the illusion that appears to need dancing with are both movements in the same cosmic dance. Both are equally real, equally illusory, equally worthy of appreciation and love. This final recognition transforms the entire spiritual journey from a path of becoming into a celebration of being. Not becoming awakened, but celebrating the awakeness that's already dancing as every experience. Comment: celebrating. If you can sense how this perspective might dissolve the effort and struggle that characterizes most spiritual seeking. The Buddha's dance becomes an invitation for consciousness to recognize itself in every form it takes. In the seeker and the teacher, in the confused and the clear, in the suffering and the enlightened. All of it is consciousness dancing, and all of it is equally Buddha nature expressing itself through the magnificent diversity of human experience. This doesn't mean there's no difference between conscious and unconscious dancing. There's a profound difference, but it's not a difference of value or spiritual hierarchy. It's a difference of artistry and enjoyment. The Buddha dances with more grace, more creativity, more joy than someone who doesn't know they're dancing, but the dance itself is the same dance. The consciousness expressing itself is the same consciousness. And here's what's most beautiful about this recognition. The Buddha's dancing creates something that formal spiritual achievement never can: genuine humility about awakening combined with complete confidence in dancing. The Buddha knows that his awakening is just consciousness playing at being awakened. There's nothing special about it except the specialness that consciousness brings to every role it plays. But he also knows that consciousness can dance with exquisite beauty through any form it inhabits, including the form that appears to be a Buddha dancing with illusion. If you're feeling this recognition of your own Buddha nature beginning to dance in your awareness, write humility below. The Buddha's final teaching is delivered not through words but through the sheer artistry of his dancing. He demonstrates that awakening isn't about achieving some final state, but about dancing so beautifully with whatever arises that the dance itself becomes a teaching. Every emotion becomes a prayer. Every challenge becomes a choreographed sequence. Every moment of confusion becomes an opportunity for consciousness to surprise itself with how gracefully it can move through complexity. And And in this continuous dancing, the Buddha discovers something that transcends both seeking and finding, the pure joy of conscious participation in the cosmic choreography that is always already perfect, always already complete, always already dancing with itself through every apparent form. Follow if you want to explore more of these ultimate recognitions about Buddha nature and how they transform every moment into an opportunity for conscious dancing. The Buddha's dancing eventually becomes so natural, so effortless, so integrated that it stops looking like dancing at all. It just looks like a fully realized human being living with complete presence and authentic responsiveness to whatever life presents. But to those who know how to recognize it, every gesture becomes a mudra, every word becomes a mantra, every action becomes a teaching about the infinite creativity of consciousness, expressing itself through the beautiful limitations of human form. This is the ultimate camouflage of enlightenment. It looks exactly like someone who has learned to dance beautifully with being human, while never forgetting the consciousness that makes the dancing possible. Comment camouflage. If you can see how this explains why the most awake people often appear completely ordinary, while radiating something indefinably extraordinary. The Buddha's dance continues infinitely, taking countless forms, expressing through billions of apparent individuals, all dancing the same dance of consciousness, exploring itself through the exquisite artistry of temporary limitation and eternal freedom. And in every moment, the invitation remains the same. Will you resist the dance or join it? Will you fight the choreography or learn to move with it? Will you try to escape the music or discover how to dance to whatever rhythm consciousness is currently playing? The Buddha's answer is always the same. Dance. Dance with whatever arises. Dance with whatever falls away. Dance with confusion and clarity, with pain and pleasure, with seeking and finding. Just dance. Because that's what consciousness does. That's what Buddha nature is. That's what you are. An eternal dancer, temporarily forgetting and remembering the infinite choreography of awakening. If this exploration has awakened your own Buddha nature to its dancing potential, comment "awake" below and share what moment in this journey touched you most deeply. And if you want more content that reveals the dancing nature of consciousness and its practical implications for awakened living, follow now, because we're exploring the most direct path to recognizing your own Buddha nature as the eternal dancer it has always been. The next video will reveal why the most awakened beings often appear to make the most mistakes, and what this teaches us about perfectionism versus authentic spiritual expression. Until then, experiment with approaching your own experiences as opportunities for conscious dancing rather than problems to solve or states to achieve. What if your confusion is consciousness dancing as confusion? What if your clarity is consciousness dancing as clarity? What if your seeking is consciousness dancing as the beautiful game of hide and seek with itself? What if awakening is not the end of the dance but the beginning of dancing, with such artistry that every step becomes a revelation of the infinite creativity of what you have always been? The answer might transform every experience into a sacred movement in the cosmic choreography of consciousness, awakening to itself through the beautiful artistry of being beautifully, temporarily perfectly human.